Hi, Journalism 314. Hey, thank you so much for being with us as we talk a little bit more today about promoting your event and the different channels that you can use to promote an event. You know, event planners are always looking at ways to expand their reach, and sporting events are no different. So, how do you attract an audience that goes beyond the fans of that sport and have it become a community event, a must attend event for the people in that community? Well, Greg Ball is from BZA PR, and his company promotes the PGA Tour's Farmers Insurance Open at Torrey Pines, California. It is one of the premier stops on the tour during their early season West Coast swing. Had the opportunity to go to Torrey Pines right before the world shut down in 2020. And it is one of these places that, whether you're a golf fan or not, you really need to visit. Greg, thank you so much for taking time to talk with us today.
Absolutely. Very happy to be here and happy to share some thoughts that hopefully will help your students learn a little more about the business.
So we have talked internally in the class about the different ways that you kind of parse out your media list, and not everybody gets the same release. You're not promoting the same thing to everybody. So let's first talk about how you work with Torrey Pines, with the Farmers Insurance Open, to promote it, first of all, as a premier sporting event. I think we think of Farmers Insurance Open and we think of Phil Mickelson, we think of Tiger Woods and how dominant they have been there. So first of all, how do you promote it as a premier sporting event?
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of the number one thing that we look at. Although to your point, and I'm sure we'll get to this later, there are many other elements that we want to promote as well. But yeah, we kind of look at key message points that we really want to get across. And we work with our client at the tournament to kind of figure out the messages we want to get out there. And those really include that it is, number one, it's the kickoff to the golf season on broadcast television. It's the first event of the calendar year that's on CBS and broadcast nationwide and internationally. So that makes it a big deal. We focus a little bit on the venue, historic venue in Torrey Pines, which has now hosted 2 U.S. Opens and has had some of the, experience some of the greatest moments in golf. And then we, in addition to the history of things that we've seen there before, we look at the field. This is traditionally the biggest and brightest stars on the PGA Tour coming out to play one of the most difficult golf courses. And so we work with, mainly we work with our sports editors at the newspaper, sports directors at the local TV stations. And, we kind of take a local, regional, and then national, international approach where, we're really pushing, hey, this is the best field of the year. We're going to have, whether it's Tiger and Phil or Rory McIlroy or John Rahm or we kind of pepper them with all the great players that we're going to have. And typically what we'll do is we'll once we have enough players in the field to really draw some excitement, we'll get a press release out. The tournament is in January, so we may get a press release out in early December, trying to get people interested in buying tickets, especially in advance of that holiday gifting season where tickets make a great gift. And then we'll try to have a steady drip of information as we go. So if from our initial press release in December until the tournament week itself, there are, say, 6 or 8 weeks, each week we'll try to drip out a little bit more information, and it may not be in the form of a press release. It might just be a casual note to all of those key sports directors and sports editors saying, hey, this player has committed and he's number 5 in the world, and here's a couple bullet points that you can share with your audience to get them excited. And typically that is a good driver of ticket sales.
So how do you work, or do you work with the PGA Tour? For example, I know a lot of times that a tournament will bring in the previous year's winner, come in and do a quick news conference, and then there'll be a lunch, and then there'll be some free golf for the media. Do you work with the tour at all, or is this more closely working with Torrey Pines and with the sponsor itself?
We work with the tour a little bit, and everything we do has to be sort of tied in a little bit with them, but it really is more we're working directly with, there's an organization called the Century Club of San Diego, and they're the charitable organization that sort of runs the tournament. So we'll work with them and a player's agent typically, and sometimes the PGA Tour as well. And you're right, what we like to do is we'll bring in the defending champion, or if that player is not available, perhaps it's another prominent player, and we'll do a press conference and media availability, sometime in that December window, perhaps early January, depending on schedule availabilities. And the idea is to generate stories. So media will want to come out, they'll want to talk to that player, they'll want to do stories. And it's just, another way to stay in the news, where we're always sort of reminding people, people know that the tournament is coming up, but they may have many other things going on in their lives, and they may not be thinking about what their plans are in late January or buying tickets now. And we want to remind them of that. So we want them to see news and hear news about our tournament as often as possible, leading up to our tournament dates.
So as I had mentioned earlier, it was my honor to be able to go out there in February 2020, probably the last event that I got to go to last year.
Sure, yep.
I just made it. I got my little Farmers Insurance golf ball, which is really lip gloss.
Yes.
Still have that. But the thing about going to Torrey Pines, yes, the venue is spectacular. The Pacific Ocean is there. I mean, it's just a gorgeous venue to begin with. But it truly is a see and be seen event for the community. I mean, you want to be there, and you might be there all day and not really see a lot of golf. There are so many interactions and so many sponsorship opportunities out there that it really becomes a place that you can come and party. And I was there on the Saturday of tournament weekend, and it truly was a party. And
yes.
So that's got to be part of the PR as well, to bring in, especially, the 20 somethings that may not be great golf fans now, but they want to come out to party. So that's like a whole nother way that you can promote it. So how do you do that?
Yeah, no, it really is. And you make a great point about Torrey Pines, and that it is such a great setting, and San Diego is sort of an event town where people really like to go out and enjoy themselves. But it's not exclusive to that area. For the event that your students will be promoting, or really any sporting event anywhere, you really do want to emphasize that it's not just about the sport, whether it's golf or something else. It really is. What we try to emphasize, and the story we try to tell is, you may have a group of friends that you get together every Saturday or a couple Saturdays a month to do some sort of activity. Maybe it's go hiking or go bowling or whatever it is, and you propose that you want to go out and go to the golf tournament. Well, if you have a group of 8 friends, maybe only a couple of them will be into golf, but surely some of them will be into drinking beer and relaxing and having fun and just being out and enjoying something. So we really do try to push that. So that message is sort of a different message that, it's not particularly applicable to the sports editor or the sports director, but we'll go to morning TV producers, or we'll go to entertainment editors, and we'll share with them storylines about all the different things that you can do out there and all the fun that you can have coming out to Torrey Pines and to the Farmers Insurance Open. And beyond that, we'll sometimes what we'll do is we'll go in studio to a TV station for their morning show, and we'll bring someone fun to talk about the tournament, and we'll bring breakfast burritos and Bloody Marys to show them that this is a fun event. It's so much more than just watching golf. We'll do ticket giveaways. We'll show off some of the merchandise. We'll talk about some of the different sponsor activations and fun activities that you can do out there. And we'll continue to push that message even when we have media that come out on site tournament week. Often we'll have morning TV out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of that week, and we'll really push those messages that this is a great place to be. It's kind of like you said, see and be seen. You don't want to miss it. Come on out. It doesn't matter if you love golf or not. You're going to have a great time, and we're going to make sure of it. So those are kind of the messages that we really push.
And you're right, morning TV has really become kind of a gold mine to be able to promote whatever you're doing, because morning TV usually is a big block of time that they need to fill. And
Yes.
So they don't mind it when you bring free stuff or you bring the chef to make something that is going to be served there. So you have that element of being a see and be seen event, but it's also a part of the community, not only the economic impact, because all the PGA Tour events have a great economic impact on that area, but then there's also the charitable angle. So how do you work to promote that part of it as well?
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a great question, and it really is a big part of every PGA Tour event we do. Your students may not know that every PGA Tour event is in fact a 501c3 nonprofit charitable organization. So the Century Club of San Diego, their revenues minus their expenses, all that money goes to supporting local charities. And we, in every market where we work a PGA Tour event, we really we want to make sure people understand that. And what we are aiming to do is make people feel good about when they come out and they buy a ticket for $50, for example, or they buy lunch, they buy drinks, they buy merchandise. A portion of that that spending is all going to supporting usually local charities. And so the big thing for us is, I think if you hear about supporting local charities, everyone agrees that that's good, right? But what we're trying to do is sort of humanize those local charities. So what we'll do is we'll work with representatives from, let's say we have 5 or 10 organizations that we're supporting. We'll work with those people to identify stories of impact. So let's say an organization that helps homeless youth, for example, gets $100,000 from the tournament this year. Well, we'll connect with those people and say, okay, help us tell stories of specific individuals that benefited from that, and we'll tell those stories. We'll bring those people out to the tournament, or we'll go in studio to a TV station, or we'll have sometimes it's a sports columnist might want to come and visit with these people. And we really try to humanize that element and show people that this really is a great event for your community. It's helping your neighbors, and maybe it's helping you, and that goes well beyond just the economic impact. So we're it's always a challenge. It's a lot of legwork to connect with those people and find the right stories, but that's always something we're trying to do and share those stories. So it's more than just, oh, that's great, they're supporting local charities. Well, it's here are people that we're actually helping, and those are always heartwarming stories that make people feel good about what they're doing attending this event.
And putting a face on it really does, as you say, make it more human, and it gives you that connection to it.
Yes.
One thing that we have been talking about in class has been the use of social media and how you use it. And there's obviously so many channels now that are out there that you use for social media. I'll give you just one example that I was following when I knew I was going to go to Torrey Pines. I found someone on Instagram called New Lady Golfer.
Yes.
And I followed her, and she kind of embodies everything that we talked about. She talks about golf. She talks about the promotions. She talks about her fashion, what she's wearing that day.
Yep.
And she talks about the parties. I mean, it is across the board. Now, is that someone that you brought in, or is that someone that the tour brought in, or how do you, I guess the broad question is, how do you set up your social media? How do you plan for that? And how do you reach all those elements that we were talking about?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the woman's name is Alyssa Kesar, and she was brought in by the Century Club of San Diego in really kind of a unique, I think it was a unique idea that other events have, some have started to kind of mimic, and if they haven't, I think they will soon. But she is essentially the host. She's your host. So instead of going on to the Farmers Insurance social media, Farmers Insurance Open social media accounts, and just seeing posts that without that are kind of anonymous, you sort of identify Alyssa as your host, and she's the expert in giving you all the information you need to know about, like you said, what to wear to the golf tournament, what to eat, where to watch, all those kinds of things. And that's really turned out to be I think this is the second or third year that she's been in that role. and it's really turned out to be a great way to get some of our messages across. And she's sort of crossed over where she'll do some traditional media for us as well. So people will
Mhm.
see her, get to be familiar with her on our various social media channels, and she's become a kind of a familiar face. So we'll ask her to do a couple of TV interviews here and there, and be that that person that kind of makes you comfortable. It's almost as if you're visiting a new city and you have a tour guide almost to take you around and show you the best ways to do things. And it's really turned out to be a very effective method for communicating a lot of our messages. And we work very closely so that our social media messages and our traditional media messages to TV, radio, newspapers, websites, and whatnot is all kind of aligned. And it's really very much a local play. Some of the stuff that we do with traditional media for larger national outlets, Golf Channel, ESPN, etc., they really just care about the golf, because they're people that are watching the tournament in Oklahoma or Florida or wherever else. It's not particularly relevant to them, what food to eat at Torrey Pines or whatever. But we really do find that the contributions that Alyssa makes to our social media coverage, and then kind of crossing over into traditional media, really does make a big difference from a local standpoint. And she's been great in that she's kind of very approachable. Her handle being New Lady Golfer, she tries to be approachable in what she shares as far as learning to play golf, but also as far as she's not going to get on our social media and make it out like she knows everything. She's just trying to kind of be your guide and show you where to go, what to do, how to have the most fun, and really sort of give you a behind the scenes look, so you can have the best experience possible out there.
And it was so fascinating to me because, again, never had been out there at Torrey Pines. It was very nice to have that kind of almost a personal guide to tell you where you should go and what you should do. So I really got a lot of everything that she posted during that week. It was fun. So
Yes, absolutely.
overall, so what is your advice, or what is your overall message to anyone who's putting together a PR plan like this on any kind of an event? The points that my students should look at, what's important, and how you get the message out, because you talked about traditional media and the social media, and it's two different crowds and two different ways really to promote, but you're still promoting the same thing. So what's your advice when you're putting together this kind of a PR plan?
Yeah, I mean, you really need to look at the big picture, right? You need to kind of look at all different angles, and I think first you want to sort of identify what messages you want to get out. Then maybe you want to figure out when you want to get them out, and you sort of typically what we do is we create a calendar. And for honestly, some events, even though they're 1 week a year, we'll have some events that want to have a year-round calendar where we're promoting different messages throughout the year.
Mhm.
Others, in this case, the Farmers Insurance Open, they focus a little bit more on a 3 to 4 month time period. So we really kind of try to look at it and we go, okay, what messages are important to get out when? What messages are relevant to our audience? Then the audience being not just the media members, but the people who are consuming that media. And then we try to figure out the best ways to tell those stories. So sometimes it might be just a social media play. Sometimes it might be traditional. Certain messages might be a combination of both. And then a really big thing is to make sure you establish good relationships with your local media. If you're trying to tell a local story and trying to generate awareness and interest people in buying tickets and local companies in buying sponsorships, you really need to make those relationships, establish those relationships, help people tell the stories. So we always look at it and we go, how can we make it as easy as possible for this sports director or this morning news producer to tell the story? So we're not sending them boatloads of information. We're sending them very basic information. We're preparing all the background they need, photos, logos, prepackaged video, all of that stuff. So it's as easy as possible for them to tell the story, and there's very few speed bumps or roadblocks for them to be able to tell that story. And then we're also looking, and trying to find unique and different stories. If we have a a player with a great personal backstory of overcoming some sort of illness or injury, or we have a really inspirational local company that perhaps is doing the catering and providing all the food run course, and then there's something interesting there. We're always looking for those unique stories to tell that, sort of stand above and beyond some of the typical stories, and really just trying to help media do their jobs while also, presenting the messages that we want to present to make sure that our client, which is the golf tournament, is represented the way we want it to be represented.
Well, Greg, some great advice there. Thank you so much for your time, Greg Ball from BZA PR Company, in charge of the Farmers Insurance Open, Torrey Pines. It's coming up pretty quickly, so you're going to be busy here in the next couple, 3 months.
It is. Yep. We've got a couple other events before that, but we're excited to get going with Farmers, and always a great time of year. And certainly if you can't be there, tune in to CBS and watch on TV, and you'll see some beautiful views out there, and it may just convince you that you want to go out and buy a ticket the next year.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of these places that you really need to see. If you're a golfer, if you're not, it's just beautiful out there. Greg, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it.
You got it. Thank you so much for having me.